I had an epiphany this morning. Hello and welcome back to Bookish, and welcome to a video in which I discussed an epiphany that I had this morning about books and reading and how I classify books. Now, I was scrolling through my YouTube feed this morning and I saw a new video from Maya Mendoza in which she talked about two books that she appreciated but didn't necessarily enjoy. I'll leave a link to her video down below, and I thought that is exactly it. That's exactly what I've been looking for as a way to describe a lot of books that I admire, that I recommend to people, that I might rate highly, but I didn't necessarily enjoy reading. So I thought I'd just real quickly put together a list of 10 books that I admire way more than I enjoyed reading, and kind of explain, why as we go through the books. Anyway, so to give you some idea what I'm talking about, I do not like Wuthering Heights. It is not a book that I enjoyed reading. I don't like it, but I appreciate it. I admire what Emily Bronte did in that story. I admire how she set it up, the atmosphere that she created, the incredibly despicable characters she created, the intricate way in which the story is told. I admire all of that, but I really don't like that book. Now, that's not one of my 10. That's just an example, kind of how this works. I really don't like Wuthering Heights, and I would say that I didn't enjoy it at all, even though I admire it. So here are my 10 books. Number 1 is The Good Soldier by Maddox. This is kind of one of those books which you see oftentimes on a list of kind of modern-ish classic books you should read. It's usually on 1001 books you should read before you die list, and it's because it does such a great job of creating an unreliable narrator. The person who tells the story is, somebody who we as readers really cannot put our faith in. And the way Ford kind of develops that as we go through, as you read the book, is brilliant. But for me, it was a real slog to get through. I didn't enjoy reading it, even though I appreciated what Maddox Ford was doing in the novel. Number 2 is a book I read this year, Tomb of Sand by Geetanjali Shree. I believe this won the Booker International Prize last year, and it is a novel that is really kind of talking about and set during the partition, or in part during the partition between India and Pakistan, and the devastation that had on families and society and all those kind of things. And it is really beautifully written at times, incredibly rich detail, a real sense of humor and of place, and there are lots of things about the book that I really admired, but it was not an enjoyable read for me. I never felt like I got into it. I never felt like I could get on a run. Even though it has lots of short chapters, it just was not a book I enjoyed reading, even though I admire it quite a bit. Number 3 on my list is one of those books who I oftentimes mention that I didn't like very much, and that's Wolf Hall by Hilary Mantel. I have complete appreciation for Mantel's incredible ability to write, to create tension, to bring to life characters from history, to kind of seamlessly weave her knowledge of the history of the Tudors into this story. But I just didn't enjoy it. I did not enjoy reading it. It was not a book for me. It didn't, make me attract my interest. It wasn't something that I got caught up in. It was just a book that I appreciate. I can say that I think it's a very good book, but it is not a book that I enjoyed. Number 4 on the list is Lolita by Vladimir Nabokov. This book is brilliant. It is a brilliantly achieved book in that it puts us in the mind of a monster and causes us to look at a situation from the monster's point of view, and it forces us to question lots of things. It forces us to really understand what makes this character of Humbert Humbert a monster, and in that way it is incredibly brilliant. It is really, to my mind, an admirable achievement. But did I enjoy reading it? No, because Humbert Humbert is a monster, and what is described in the book is monstrous. I do not enjoy reading it, but I admire what Nabokov achieved. Number 5 on my list, I have Black Leopard, Red Wolf by Marlon James. This is kind of a high fantasy style novel which incorporates African folk tales into this kind of high fantasy. It places it in a, what I'm going to call an unreal kind of fantasy world, which is based on African societies and cultural things. and the writing style is done in an incredibly specific way, meant to call to mind patterns of speech and storytelling from African societies, and that is all just brilliant. But the book is also incredibly brutal, incredibly violent. It's also incredibly unpleasant in lots of ways. There are some places that I thought were incredibly moving and beautiful, but I didn't enjoy reading it because it was, to me, a really visceral experience, even though I could appreciate what James was achieving there. At number 6 on my list, I have The Goldfinch by Donna Tartt. Like lots of people, I read The Secret History, and I really liked it. Was blown away. Really liked that style of novel, subject matter, and I read The Goldfinch, and I was so impressed with all the threads that Tartt is able to weave together in that novel, and the scope of it. You know, from Manhattan to suburban Las Vegas wastelands to the world of art thieves and antique scams, and all kinds of stuff is woven in, as well as this work of art called The Goldfinch, which is a real work of art by a real painter. And it was all that I thought was great, but I didn't enjoy it because I could not, in my head, make the novel feel like it was grounded in reality. It required me to not question too many things that happen, too many ways that the story's connected, and it was just, I thought, a little more ambitious than she was able to pull off. But I admire the effort, I admire the risk, I admired a lot of the writing. Number 7 on my list is Jill by Amy Dilwynn. This is a Victorian novel written by a woman, which I read for October this year. And Jill is this kind of character who is, you know, to be honest with you, a scammer. She is largely unethical, and she lies and does all kinds of things to find her ways in a job because in a way she has to make her way in the world. She's unapologetic about her actions, about her dishonesty, about the things she does. She has kind of an adventuresome life. As a result, there are some funny scenes in the book, and in the end, you know, things work out the way they work out. And I wanted to like the book, and I was impressed that this was a Victorian novel and that Jill is a groundbreaking character, and I admired all of that about the book, but I just didn't enjoy reading it very much. And I'm not exactly sure why. Perhaps the style of the writing or something like that just didn't really appeal to me, and it wasn't a book that I was eager to go back to and read when I put it down. Number 8 on the list is probably, I think, maybe the best book overall on the list, and that's Disgrace by J.M. Coetzee or Coetzee, however you pronounce it. I'm never exactly sure. This is a book, again, with an incredibly unreliable narrator, an incredibly unpleasant man who in some ways lacks self-awareness, is a narcissist, and just kind of blunders his way through life doing damage. And in the end, he's kind of forced to face not necessarily the damage he's done, but and the consequence of that, but it seems to be visited on his daughter. And it's a novel set around the time of apartheid, or the end of apartheid, and all those kind of things are brought in that took place in South Africa, and all those elements are brought in. I think the book is really brilliant, but it is so unpleasant to read because of this character, because of some of the events that happen, because of some of the way in which they play out. It is unsettling. It is an uncomfortable book to read. So while I think it's great, and I would recommend it, and as a matter of fact, the other books on this list, to anybody, it is not a book that was enjoyable for me to read in the sense of, you know, I enjoyed the experience itself. At number 9, I have Going After Cacciatto by Tim O'Brien. This is one of O'Brien's Vietnam War books, which is really kind of surreal, in which this group of soldiers goes after a missing member of their company, and they end up following through tunnels and all this stuff about ending up in, I can't remember if it was Rome or Berlin or Paris, and there are all kinds of things that are mixed into the story, which are kind of surreal and unreal, and that just didn't work for me. I admire what O'Brien was doing. I admire all of Tim O'Brien's novels about Vietnam, and even In the Lake of the Woods, which is not really about Vietnam, but it just didn't work for me. And it's one of those novels which I see sometimes on reading lists for high schools, etc. And I wonder how, you know, that novel is taught. You know, so again, a novel I admire but didn't enjoy reading. And then the last one I have on my list are the two parts of Remembrance of Things Past by Marcel Proust that I read, and that's Swan's Way and Within a Budding Grove. Those are the titles I read them under. And Proust is a beautiful writer, and oftentimes I found myself really enchanted just by the writing itself. But if you don't know, these stories examine kind of in minute detail events from the author's life, and they involve then his admiration for this man whose last name was Swan, and a love situation there, and then him maturing and going off with his grandmother on vacation to the coast, and experiencing love and those kind of things there. And it just is, it can be incredibly tedious to read because no moment seems to go unexamined. So on the one hand, I truly admire Proust's writing, his writing style, his ability to recreate these events to make it seem vivid and real, and to tie lots of things together you don't think are connected together. But did I enjoy reading those 2 volumes? I did not. Anyway, there you go. There is a list of 10 books that I admired, even though I didn't enjoy reading them. Thanks again to Maya for making that video and kind of making this thing happen in my head. If you have novels like this that you can think of that you admired but you didn't enjoy reading, I really would love for you to list those in the comment section below, because I'm sure there are others that I just didn't think of when making this video. Anyway, look forward to your comments in the comment section below, and as always, thank you for watching.